We will get an echo, okay? It'll be an echo, and it would be what you see on Facebook.
We're on right now.
Yeah, it's gonna be a little. So, gee, welcome, 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 welcome to JDub Corner. Coming, I see you guys coming on. Thank you all for coming on and experiencing this great discussion we're gonna have with a wonderful, wonderful. All right, we're gonna give it about 2 more minutes, and we're gonna go live with our topic. Kids matter. So you guys hang tight. Just letting a couple more people enter into the feed, and we're gonna get the party started. Looking forward to it. All right, ladies and gentlemen, once again, thank you. Welcome to another episode of JDub's Corner. I'm your host, JDub, and today we got a phenomenal panel guest here, all the way from Mississippi. Uh, we have the lovely Keisha Bo.
Hey,
And,
hey.
can you hear me, Keisha?
Yes, I can.
Right.
How are you?
We have Matthew Bradford.
Yes, sir.
And guess what? We all from the SIP. If they don't know that the SIP is, MI cricket-added, SIP, SI, whatever, PPI, whatever. So first and foremost, you all, thank you all for spending some time with me. Thank you all for giving me your time during family time. And today's, we're going to talk about a great topic is surrounding kids and co-parenting, and not only co-parenting, discovering kids' purposes as well as self-discovery for yourself while raising kids. So over the years, I've seen two individuals have some challenges, but they still stayed the course. And these two people are the individuals I have tonight, and that's Keisha and Matt. And they have some nuggets, some things they want to share with you all to either answer some questions or some things that are out there that you're toiling with or you're struggling with. And not to say we're perfect people, but hey, we've been through some things that I hope these guys can provide some great information for you to move forward in your life in a purposeful way. This is what this podcast is all about, is discovering your gifts, discovering your purpose, and moving forward in this great journey of life. I like the saying that many plans are in the man's heart, but God's purpose will prevail. So why don't we just, understand our purpose and live the way that we're supposed to be living? I want to tell a story to start this discussion. I remember when I was in middle school and it was around Christmas time, and it was the time that you give your parents that list what you want in life. And for Christmas. And that time I wanted a drum, just a simple drum so I can start playing. But I saw my mom's list and it had football equipment. And I always thought about that to the point of, what if my mom would have gave me that drum? What would I have been today? Would I would have been the best producer of all times just to give me that drum, because that was what was speaking in my heart, was music. But my mom had, and nothing against my mom, but she had another idea. And I was playing football at the time, and she thought the equipment was important to me. But that was a time that I was giving my mom information about what was that seed that was instilled in me, and say, I love music. So what happened? As a result, I still went into the band and I became a drum major. Not to say that's the biggest thing, but
Right.
what if my mom would have taken that another step level to explore? Why did my son want that drum? It's something that he's telling me, so let me explore it a little bit more. So I want you guys to think about that. As parents, what should we be doing to help explore, or what I say, assess the obsession of your child to allow them to be who they're supposed to be? So I want to go ahead and introduce Keisha, who
Hello.
is Jackson State drum major, and she was a J-Set. Go ahead and
Absolutely.
introduce yourself, Keisha. Let the world know who you are.
Hello. Thank you everyone for joining. My name is Keisha Bogan. As James said, we went to Jackson State University together. We both had a love and a passion for music. Obviously dance, drum major and J-Set kind of go hand in hand. I'm a mother, I'm an author, salon owner, entrepreneur. So there's several things that are, different facets of me that kind of create who I am. So that's me. I'm Keisha.
All right. The next person, Matthew Bradford, my fraternity brother. And what I being a great father to his daughter. You know, there are not too many stats that point in the direction of fathers being involved in their child's life. But this guy has done it. He has done a great job. So, Matthew, go ahead and introduce yourself, my brother.
I appreciate it. Thank you all again for being here this evening. James, I appreciate the opportunity to be here. Matthew Bradford. I am a native of Laurel, Mississippi, L-Town, if you will. I graduate of the Jackson State University, proud alpha man, but more importantly, I'm Maya's daddy. And so at the end of the day, regardless as to the fact that God blessed me to be an IT executive with an organization that's pretty large and all of those cute, cool things when it comes to my career, he couldn't have blessed me any more when it comes to being a father. So I'm thankful to have the opportunity to talk about fatherhood and parenthood and co-parenting tonight. And hopefully I learned something because I'm a work in progress. I don't know it all, of course. And hopefully we can be a blessing to those that's listening tonight.
Absolutely.
My guess is the type that if her hair is not braided, then he will learn how to braid it.
Absolutely.
My guess is the type when there's a snowstorm, she will take those 3 kids and protect them and shelter them and walk a mile or 2 to get them to the house safe. Those are the 2 individuals I'm dealing with tonight. Okay. So for that reason, let's talk about co-parent. Let's go ahead and dig up in there. I know co-parent is a tough situation. But what's the most important thing, the aspect of co-parent? Let me hear, what would you think the most important aspect of co-parent?
One of the most important aspects of co-parenting is trying to create a balance for your children. Although you may not have the same background, the same upbringings, the same actual moral values, there are still some commonalities that you can take and put together in order to create a clean slate for your kids, in order for them to be able to take that and springboard on. So if your values are risen in God and Christianity and how to go about things, it's almost like making sure that they praise the Lord for the things that they do have, the blessings, the things. This is where your strength comes from. These are the things, and this is the way that you go about dealing with it. So I think that once you create that, or you give that as a co-parent, in co-parenting, they have that regardless of which direction they decide to go or which direction it is that the 2 parents choose for the child. They still have that foundation and the grounding in order for them to see what it is in regards to their source. So, you know, as a co-parent, you just simply have to find that balance. And sometimes finding that balance is figuring out exactly what works in each situation, because, you know, each household, even if they're not in the same household, both households may be done differently, but there's still some things you can give to them that grounds them, regardless if one home or the other. So you have to find a balance.
I like how you said finding that balance, because it's hard to find that balance. You got to go through experiences in order to find that balance.
Absolutely.
Matt, what are your thoughts on that? What are some of the most important aspects of co-parenting?
You know, first and foremost, the cool thing for me, or the misconception is when you're a co-parent, you're a single parent. I'm not in the least bit a single parent. I'm a co-parent. My daughter has a mother that's on the job, and so it's not a situation where, you know, I'm doing this by myself. And I'll say this, one of the biggest challenges for me initially was and it was all me, to kind of understand that I can't dictate how her mom parents. She doesn't necessarily have to parent the way I parent, because at the end of the day, our focus is our daughter. She's going to be well taken care of. And how, you know, her mom does something may be totally different than the way I would do it, but I know that her best interest, meaning my daughter, is always at hand. And so, you know, when you're a parent, you don't have a playbook. Well, I only have one child. So you don't necessarily have a handbook that tells you that this is the way you parent a daughter, right? Or this is the way you parent a child. And so you're going to make mistakes, missteps, and all those things along the way. But as long as you keep your child as the primary focus, you can definitely raise, productive productive kids, if you will. So at the end of the day, I think I had to kind of get past the fact that the way I parent may be different than someone else does it or what have you. But as long as we keep the kids as a priority, we'll be fine.
I think you make a good point of the differences and, being co-parent and some of the mistakes that you have. The common denominator is the kid. It's like, okay, we are going to make some of those mistakes together as co-parents, but if we make sure that the common denominator is to make sure that this kid is going to have the best fundamental foundation to move forward in the life, that's worth everything, and I hope a lot of parents understand that it's not about you, it's about the kid at some time, to make sure that, yes, we could not live together, or we have our differences, or we going to make mistakes, but at the end of the day is what's best for the kid.
Absolutely. That was a good assessment, definitely.
So what are some of the challenges? We talk about, the commonalities, we talking about things that are important, but sometimes we do come into those challenges, whether that's different backgrounds, whether that's different beliefs, morals. We all came through different walks of life. And when we have two individuals coming together, there are inevitably going to be some issues. Let's talk about that. What are some of the challenges when you're facing being a co-parent?
Well, some of the challenges are going to be trying to separate the personal with the priority. So when you have personal things that you're still kind of working through or dealing with, you have to prioritize what's the most important, as you said before, which is the child. And that alone can actually be challenging because you have a difference of opinion. And as you said, with the backgrounds, assumptive thinking, perceptions, you have a lot of different things of that nature that we'll say childhood. When you got two parents, you got two different childhoods, two different backgrounds. And oftentimes, as you grow up, you can't rectify certain things that may have occurred in your childhood. So what happens is you tend to lean towards making sure your child has something different than yours, as well as sometimes that can result in vicarious living. Because you want the best for your child. You want the best for your child. And that can be a difference between both parents because the backgrounds aren't the same. And oftentimes when the backgrounds aren't the same, those are the problems that you run into, and you're trying to figure out exactly how to make them mesh, where the personal side could be set down and the priority side can be lifted up. Because at the end of the day, the child is the most important, and you would love to be able to come together, but sometimes that thing just don't come together. Sometimes it just doesn't come together. But I've always said that however you raise your child under your roof, they will have that from now until, and then they can become old enough to make decisions on their own. So if some of the distractions of the personal can be put to the side in order to see the purpose in raising this child to become what they're intended to be by God, not by us, but by God, you have to instill with them love. So although this didn't work and this didn't work, you have to figure out a balance to where they can see that there is love, and that love is for them. It's not so much between a relationship that maybe once was, but if that child knows mommy loves me, daddy loves me, that's all that matters. This didn't work, but when they come together, it's about me. So I think that's kind of the challenge when it comes to that, because there's always going to be a difference.
So I'm gonna ask this question: Who's
Sure.
right, or is anybody right? You make a good point. Like, is it true that we should, as parents, just balance it out? It's almost like you articulate how you were raised, I articulate how I was raised. Let's come together and let's all formulate this one unity of how we should be moving our kids together. Not saying, well, my dad taught me that I should
Right.
be this way, or mom always said that you're supposed to, put the flour before the egg, and then all of a sudden we are adopting these, these historical cultures of, but
Right.
that doesn't,
Generational. Yeah.
right. So
Right.
who is,
Well, it would be ideal to do that. To me, that is a certain level of maturity. When you're completely past something, you're able to see a little bit clearer. So until those things kind of move, sometimes you're going to have this happens in this household and this happens in this household. I don't know if it makes one or the other person, right or wrong, because they're going by only what their experiences were or how they were raised, or the opposite of what they don't want to see happen. And oftentimes, unfortunately, it can harm the child's ability to process, because whichever home most of the time that child is in, that's kind of what they adapt to. And as that changes, be it, the differences as far as like the visitation or where the child is at whatever point in time, that's where it's almost like it can change to a point where it creates more confusion. So the challenge is going to always be the challenge until those two people are able to actually come together and realize that this child needs X, Y, or Z. So I'm not really sure if you can say, well, your way is right and my way is wrong, or my way is wrong and your way is right, because both people were raised differently.
I agree.
hey, Matt, say you.
I agree. I mean, that was one of my challenges initially, because I thought, now here I am without a playbook, and I don't know what it means to be a father, because I'm on the job training as we speak, right? But I thought my way was the best way. But at the end of the day, it in many instances that wasn't the case. How I was raised was all I had to pull from. But quite honestly, I can't raise my daughter the way I was raised, because I'd probably be in jail right now when it comes to the physical reinforcement my parents gave me back in the day, right? But at the end of the day, it's a trial and error thing. And I'll say another one of the challenges that I faced was rules, right? In my home, there's a certain level of rules, and then in mommy's house, there's another set of rules. And I'm the biggest pushover in the world when it comes to my daughter. She literally has me wrapped around her finger. And unfortunately, she knows it. And every day I pray that she doesn't use her powers for evil. But I tell you, it's an interesting situation. I'll give you an example. Going to bed at a certain time during the school, right? Your bedtime is a certain time here. It's a certain time at mommy's, right? Well, she may be winning here at times, but not necessarily at mommy's. It's totally different rules, totally different instances, and both of us want to make certain that she gets a good night's sleep, right? So at the end of the day, regardless as to the differences and backgrounds and how you were raised versus the co-parent, of course, everything has to point to your child. Everything has to point to the well-being of the child. And to your question, James, it's not a situation where it's a right or wrong type of thing. Nobody wins in this situation unless it's the child. And so that should always be the priority. And to your point, the personal situations matter not when it comes to raising a child. Kids did not ask to be here, right? And so God blesses you with a child. You have to do everything you possibly can to be a good steward of the blessing He gave you, right? And so that should be the focus, and it's definitely one that I continue to push forward towards that mark.
James, I had one other thing with that. One other thing I wanted to add to that is sometimes it's actually listening to the child, listening to certain things that they may say or like to say to you in order to hear them. And oftentimes when kids feel like they are heard, they perform better, they act better, their behavior reflects that, all of those different things. When a child feels like they're being heard, because like Matt said, when you think back to how we were, it was you listen, and you listen to the parent, and you do. It wasn't really about responding and let me tell you what I think and let me give you my opinion. It was none of that. It was, it's bedtime, go to bed. It wasn't, what is it that's keeping you up? We didn't have that. It's just now, this age of kids now are very, a lot different. So you have to listen.
I mean, you make a point, which is great, transitioning to discovering kids' gift and that's being heard. And when we talk about that discovery stage for a kid and them being heard, and are we hearing some of the things when a parent sees a kid wanting to do one thing, and i.e. we talked about either sports or either some extracurriculum activities because they feel like this is something that I have a true gift for. Do you feel like we are hearing those kids the way we should be hearing them, or we are, trying to guide them the way we wanted them to be guided? How are we hearing these kids to say, I am talking about, I want to be a drummer, I want to be this, I want to be that? Are we hearing our kids with an intent ear to say, my kid is telling me something that it's a seed that he is connected to the higher power that's saying, this is something I know the end before I begin, and this guy has what I need for him to do, and I'm telling you what I believe I should be doing, but we're not hearing it.
I think that it definitely takes a very keen ear, and it depends on your position of what you feel you want the child to do. But if you actually take the time and you listen and you hear them, like Amaya, I'll give you an example. Amaya was a preemie. She was born at 26 weeks. Well, her gift now, she's about to be 16 years old, Christmas Day. Her gift has been art since forever. And so it went from drawing trees to drawing people, to drawing objects, to now it's more in anime and shading. And so the progression is what I'm saying, is watching her and the progression, because for a while you could give her paper and she would take what I would think is a large sheet of paper. And if whatever she was drawing was this small, she'd make that paper that small. It needed to be the size of all that other stuff on the outside of that was a bit much for her. It was almost like a distraction. So what I realized is in her progression of learning and getting to that point where she began to advance into the anime and basically almost like doing a flip book, taking one picture, and if you do it fast enough, it looks like the whole picture is moving. That was her gift. Now, when I think of Kennedy and I think of Silas, they're still in the stage of discovery. It looks good. Like Silas was playing football. It looked good. The uniform was nice, all of those different things. And he did take the opportunity to give it a try. But you have to be very mindful in those areas when you're pushing them towards something that it seems like they're interested in, because it may be an interest, but not so much of something that they truly want to do after they try it. And it's okay. So the reward in that is making sure you praise them for their effort, their desire, their ability to give it a try. And that doesn't mean, they get hit one time and they say, oh God, it hurts. And then you say, okay, I'm taking you out. You make sure that you encourage them, but you also make sure that you monitor their movements and make sure that they're not actually getting hurt, trying to prove a point in something. So it takes courage. So him coming to me and saying, hey, Mom, I want to talk to you. And I'm like, okay, son, what's going on? So when he shared with me the instance and how it made his body feel, it clearly sounded like a concussion. Clearly sounded like a concussion. So for him to come and tell me that, it took more courage in his tears to be able to express himself. And when I asked him, I said, do you want to take off today? Or what do you want to do? I don't want to play anymore. And it wasn't the first time. So I just feel like with each child, or however you go about fostering what it is they may want to do, let them try everything. Let him try. If he wants to go try soccer, he tried baseball, but then COVID happened. Whatever it is, if he swing 20 times and hit that ball one time, if that was his personal goal to do that and he does not continue it, I don't think it's so much of not nurturing what it is that he wanted to do. It's giving him the opportunity to try everything until something sticks.
What about you, Matt? Do you
Yeah,
listen to what they hear and monitor your daughter doing things effortlessly?
yeah, Keisha, you make some great points. I mean, the cool thing about my co-parenting experience is that it doesn't matter. We allow our daughter to try whatever it is she wants to try, right? And we've seen her go through phases where at one point it was all about soccer, right?
Right.
At one point she talked about gymnastics, but at the end of the day, if it's something that she talks about, there's a difference between a like and a passion, right? And I think it's watching her, listening to her. We tried tennis before the pandemic, but swimming has been something that she's been great at. It's something that she's excelled in. We have to do we'll do more, as the pandemic kind of subsides, but we had to kind of watch and listen, because at the end of the day, she wanted to do something today and was gung ho about it, and tomorrow she never talked about it again. So
right.
Again, it's trial and error, but you have to listen. And I would say this: another positive is that we've not told her no about something that she wanted to try, because that could have been the thing that turned out to be her passion, right? So we've given her an opportunity to explore. We'll continue to do that, because you never know. I mean, she could end up being a scientist and wants to do something that stemmed from robotics class or something, or
Right.
something of that magnitude. So the extracurriculars, we let her go and do whatever that she wants to do, making an attempt to have her explore what have you. But what we aren't negotiable about rather is the educational piece, right? And so those things are non-negotiable. She has to do well there in order for her to do those things that she wants to do from an extracurricular perspective. But I think it's listening, and I'll say that co-parents kind of probably drop the ball if they try to force a kid into a direction in which they're not comfortable in, or if it's something that they truly don't want to do.
Right.
And I'll stop. But James, I used to coach Pee Wee football in Jackson in Lake Hyco, and we would have parents that would come to practice that might have played football or didn't make the cut or didn't play or didn't do well, but they would come to the practice with a whole playbook that highlights their son. Now their son may be a lineman, but you want him to be a running back. So you got plays written down that has him at running back at every play, and he should get the ball every time you snap it, right? And so at the end of the day, you can't force a kid to do something that they don't want to do, because a kid, they love you unconditionally, and they'll do everything they possibly can to be the best at it just for you. But it puts them in a situation where every single day they hate their existence if that's what you have to do as a child. So, so I'd say that you have to listen, you have to give them an opportunity to explore something. And if they have explored it and they don't want to do it anymore, that's fine. Move on to something else, because your passion is out there. Yeah, definitely out there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put you
those were definitely some great points.
Some beautiful pictures of you and your daughter. She seemed like she loved swimming right about now. Am I correct? All right.
Yeah.
How do you know if it's an interest or passion? How do you differentiate that, whether it's an interest or passion? And on top of that, what if it's a interest and you try to figure out where you should be getting go digger, but what about those parents that don't have the funds to go deeper. You know, okay, this person wants to do piano, they want to do AAU basketball, this person wants to do art, but I'm trying to figure this out, but I don't have the funds to do everything for my child. What do we do?
Well, I'll tell you this. There are programs now that didn't exist when we were growing up. There are opportunities when it comes to sporting events, free coding classes for kids that want to learn how to code and create games and things of that magnitude. You can call your local city and find out if the city league has, the city basketball league has openings, or the city flag football league has openings. And now when it comes to STEM and other things, especially when it comes to the arts, there are educational programs out there that you can literally go to your guidance counselors or counselors at school, and they can point you in the right direction. If there's a passion that your kid has that you can't necessarily fund, there are ways to get it done. You just have to research. And I promise you, a lot of times it's right under your nose as far as trying to point you, get people that can point you in the right direction. But there are programs out there that can help kids in a lot of ways, a lot more than what we had when we were coming up.
Right. James, I have an interesting thought to piggyback on what you were saying in regards to how do you, if you don't have the funds, how are you able to put your child in this and that? Another challenge that comes along with that, I know Matt has one daughter. Myself, I have three. Okay, so they're all different ages. I have a 15-year-old about to be 16, a 9-year-old, and a 10-year-old. So nothing is really in the same arena area. Their interests are not the same. So some of the challenges that can come along with that is the transportation to get there. So how can you, as a parent, even in a co-parenting, situation, you have to almost be mindful of not only your schedule, you have to be mindful of their schedule, and then try to figure out how to explore all these different things, as well as give them the opportunity to discover and be realistic about how are they going to get from, I run a business as well, to provide. So if I'm running a business, I can shut down, say on this day, and this day. But if the practices are on that day, and that day, it's almost like there's another interesting challenge. So what I've learned in that situation, Amaya was interested at one point in volleyball. She actually, this was her first time ever trying the sport. She's more studious. Again, she loves art. And she's in her books. She's one of those. She's kind of quiet. Most of her friends are kind of like her. So when she said she wanted to try out for volleyball, I thought, oh, wow. Well, that first day it wore out, because she was like, wait, we run and we do this. I thought it was just hitting the ball. But once she realized, okay, this is a little more in depth. And after she got over that first week, she was prepared for the next week and the next week and the next week. And she actually tried out and she did not make it. However, she was so excited about her experience that was the highlight for her. Like, I did something different that I hadn't done before. And so although she didn't make the team, I asked her recently, I said, hey, do you think you want to try back out? And she's like, I'm not really sure. So the point is that she gave it an opportunity. She gave it a try. And I was willing to make whatever work with my other two children if she decided to go in that direction. So sometimes, again, the challenges could be not so much as financial. You can have all the money, but you're still only one person. So how do you make that work in order to get three children at three stages in three different ages of how they would be able to go? So what I can say with that is either trying to find that soccer mom or football mom or art teacher, or whatever the case, that kind of picks up some of the things that we had way back when it was like the elderly community. Someone that was in your community, you can go over Big Mama house, you can go until I get home. But it's just a lot different now, because the kids and the age and the time and this era now is something totally different. It's hard to trust people the same.
I think you make some good points. As it relates to the co-parenting and two parents coming together, and you make a point that although she didn't like it, she gave it a try. Yes. And my thing about giving it a try is actually a lesson. It's a life lesson. Yes. If you don't try anything, you won't know if you're going to be able to be successful or not. And that's when I believe that is so essential when you bring two parents together and say, hey, that was a lesson of giving it a try, or that was a lesson of you got beat, not what, now what, or
Right.
that was a lesson of whatever that lesson of that interest is. And I like how Matt stated, there are so many resources to engage your kids through their interests in life at a young age, that you can say, okay, if I like coding, there are opportunities for free that parents can give their kids that opportunity to code. And even if it's not what they're supposed to be doing, or it's not their gift or purpose, well, guess what? They tried, and that is a lesson in its own. Am I correct?
Absolutely. Yes, I
Very much
agree.
so.
So let me ask you guys this. Now that we have kids, in this social area, technology, distraction is so important right now. What do you all do to help manage distractions when we're in the age that we're in right now to keep them on the journey of purpose?
I think, social media is taken society by storm, and it's touched every facet of our lives. And regardless as to how protective we want to be when it comes to our children, social media is definitely a part of their lives as well. My daughter is 8, and she is a master at TikTok, right? She can tell you, she can teach you every TikTok dance. She knows every song that comes on when it comes to her feed and all those types of things. And at some points, you could kind of see how it could literally take over from a distraction perspective. And so now, I have to, and we have to use it as a carrot, right? When it comes to things that she's supposed to do, take care of those things first from a priority perspective, like your homework and things of that magnitude. And then, once you get everything set for the next day of school, before you go to bed, you can get on TikTok, or you can, use, Facebook Messenger with your friends, or whatever that may be. But if you don't monitor it, it can definitely put you in a situation where, your kids are exposed to things they probably shouldn't see at their age, exposed to things that they shouldn't necessarily even be looking at or listening to. And you have to be active as far as that goes, because they'll teach you some things you don't want to learn, not from them anyway. So it's definitely a challenge.
I definitely can agree. What I've found is that a lot of the things that interest kids now, from a social media standpoint, it is like the TikToks, the songs, the latest songs. You can't really bleep out all the profanity and the put your hands on your knees and do this and do that. Whereas at one point you felt like you can kind of control what they watch. Remember it was Kids Bop and all of that. I guess kids don't really do that anymore. But it's almost like you have to figure out different ways and methods in order to assure that they aren't getting so distracted that just becomes everything. My son likes to watch, and I think it's one of the most interesting things, that to watch kids watch the people that play the games and make the sounds and all this stuff that's on TV. It's like, what is interesting about that? The person is playing a game and they're just like, whoa, I'm just like, what in the world? But he can watch that for hours. So you have to be, careful with some of that stuff and cut it down, and, create times and moments where they know we can't do social media and eat. We can't watch TV and eat. We tend to listen to jazz. I turn on music. They know, when we get ready to say grace, all those different things. I've never been one who's really I haven't really watched a whole lot of TV. I'm more of a music person, because I feel like that tends to go into the mind a little bit differently than visually. And so that tends to work here. I also make sure on both of my children's phones, regardless of their age, is that you put things in place. I can shut their phones off from my phone. I can see what they're going on. I can stop some of the things that they would even attempt to go on. So I found that those monitoring apps are very helpful, because I can say, hey, Kennedy, she's like, oh, I couldn't get on the internet. I said, oh, really? So those are the things that, you know, you can kind of do that gives them that little, uh-oh, I've been on this too long, without saying you've been on there too long. And so that tends to teach them some sense of responsibility as well as accountability when you can't actually see them. So if you're in a home, you got your kids that's upstairs, everybody is quiet, you know something is going on. So I'll shut phones off from my phone. I'll make stuff a time and they can't even get on it. And it was interesting one time, this is funny, that Kennedy was calling me after the time that I know that I made her phone shut off. And I was like, how are you calling me? Well, I pushed the emergency button. So, you know, it's those type of things that you have to figure out. And once your children learn you and they know, okay, mommy not going to go for this, or daddy's not going to go for that, or this is what I can do. And what they know which buttons to push and which ones not to push, but they also understand it's for their own good.
Yeah, you know, I agree. And I think that even when you can't filter out everything, what you teach your child as far as, you know, words they shouldn't say, things they shouldn't do, even if they hear it, they know not to repeat it. Even if they see it, they know not to you know, to make an attempt to emulate it. And so I think it's a different day compared to, again, the way I was raised. But at the end of the day, you know, what we pour into them, you know, regardless as to what we can, you know, because we can't shelter them from everything, and that's one of the challenges I face as well, right? Yeah, because I don't want any harm to ever come to my daughter, right? I don't want her to ever be disappointed or hurt or anything of those magnitudes, if you will. But life happens, right? And so you just have to put as much as you can in her, in your child, right? That they can be strong when those disappointments happens, and so I it's a testament to a mom and I when it comes to having the same mindset as far as that goes, because we can't control what happens outside of our purview, right? When she's physically away from us, it's that's when you have to pray the most, right? And so you know,
Matt and Keisha, you know, communication is so key when you're co-parenting. And it seemed like when you have experience on one side, Keisha, you mentioned that, you know, if I can just turn off or monitor some of the things, and you see that working on your time, how can you communicate that to your other half to say, this is working? Can we continue that journey so we can make sure we get the same results over my house than I get over to the other house?
I'll say this. You can, so there are, this is going to kind of dig into a little bit more so that we can kind of get an understanding. Sometimes it depends on where both parents are, and that becomes where the personal side is. But there are also things that are in place that can be used in order to try to communicate when you can't personally communicate. There's various apps that are out here that can be used to say, this is what's going on in school, or this is what we was doing over the weekend. Here is the copy of, or here's the paperwork, or here is what they were working on, different things like that, in hopes that that can come across beyond whatever the personal side is. Sometimes that doesn't always work. And sometimes you have to communicate that through your children or to your children. And what happens is, the great part about that is, once you have created a relationship of great communication with your children will take that same communication when they do leave your home to go to the other parent's home and share what it was that they were working on or how they went about it. Well, no, this is how they do it at school, and this is what me and mom were doing, or, you know, those sort of things, in hopes that that can relate. And most times that works a lot better because it's coming from the child. So it's like there is an understanding, there is a respect there, there is a full, you know, dialogue that's happening. It just may not be happening between the two parents, but the child creates the liaison in between to continue what it is that they've learned, so that they aren't trying to create a new way. And so that's typically what, you know, tends to work, especially with them being a little more mature and older. You can kind of give the instruction and they take that instruction and share it. And that parent, the other parent, kind of has no choice but to hear, okay, is this how you guys were doing it? Now show me this or show me that. And then it works well. The child comes back after a visit and the work is complete. And it works.
And that's going back to you saying separating that personal with priority.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I think, as I stated before, there's no playbook to being a parent, but there's also no playbook, in place that I've seen to be a co-parent as well. You have to learn how to co-parent. Relationships, start, they end. Those things happen. It's life, but you literally have to learn how to co-parent and co-parent effectively, and communication is a big part of that. At times I failed miserably when it comes to that in my co-parenting, because again, we're human. But I think from a priority perspective, putting the child first, and at times you have to communicate through the child, like you said, but Keith, like you said before. But I think when you prioritize your child and their upbringing and well-being over time, that should never exist moving forward. You tend to prioritize as you should. You put all those other things aside because all of those things don't matter, when it comes to the child. The child wants two healthy parents. They want to be loved by two healthy parents. They want to do everything they possibly can to take advantage of two healthy parents, of course. And if you truly love your child as you say, then you'll do everything you possibly can to improve in that regard. But it's a work in progress because nobody's perfect. And so co-parenting is a day-by-day exercise. Some days you get an A and some days you get an F, but again, if you continue to put your child as the number one priority, everything else should come into play, to be a benefit to them. So I'll tell you this, the cool thing about my situation is that at times my daughter, because she can get away with anything with me, she again, I'm sprung out for a reason, right? And so sometimes she'll get away with something with me that she can't necessarily get away with her mom,
right,
and vice versa. But the fact that we communicate, all right, then I know that she got over on me. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, she got me, or vice versa, right? And if you don't communicate in that regard, kids are smart and they know what they can and can't do, right? And so they will take advantage of the opportunities that they have when it comes to getting what they want. And we don't have a bad kid in the least bit. We're blessed to have, in my opinion, the best daughter in the world. But she knows she can get away with some things with me that she can't with her mom. But now she gets irritated because she says that we gang up on her. We're not on her team anymore, right? When it comes to certain things. And so that's for the betterment of the child, and communication has to be in place for that to be the case.
Right.
So let's for the last few minutes we have here on JDub's Corner, let's shift gears here with self-discovery. And that is self-discovery while raising these beautiful kids. I think God still hold us accountable of our individual journeys and things that we supposed to be doing purposefully. How do you all manage your own self-purpose when you're raising kids? I know it could be a challenge, but we're still held accountable to the point that I would love for God to say to you, Matt, and to you, Keisha, to my family, job well done, my obedient servant. You have done what I asked you to do, but the problem is most of us are walking what I call zombies, because we're not in our purpose, And I always say this, the biggest tragedy in life is not death, but walking the world without a purpose. So how do you guys actually find your purpose in life while raising kids?
Yeah, well, Matt, you can go ahead.
That's a work in progress as well, right? Statement or question. My case is interesting in that, I prayed to be a father and I wanted nothing more but to have the blessing of fatherhood. And I prayed that if God gave me that opportunity, I would be doing everything I possibly could every day to be a better father today than I was the day before, right? Because he didn't have to choose me to be my father. He could have chosen anyone. He could have not given me the opportunity. But at times I felt, even through divorce, even through the initial phase of co-parenting, and even at times today, that I failed her because I couldn't shield her from this, or I couldn't keep her from that disappointment. I couldn't keep her from that hurt. I couldn't keep her from that pain, or I couldn't do certain things. But at the end of the day, my promise to God never changed, right? And the beauty of fatherhood, the beauty of parenthood, even when you feel that you failed, guess who's going to continue to love you unconditionally? Your children. And so
Yes.
finding your purpose is looking at them and looking at the fact that regardless as to where you feel that you had shortcomings and all of those types of things, they're going to love you just the same. And I tell you this, I found that she's given me a level of patience I never knew I had, right? Being a parent put me in a situation where I had to truly understand priority, not necessarily wants, but always focus on needs, and do everything I possibly could to put her and her livelihood, I guess, at the forefront. But from a purpose perspective, she's given me all the motivation I need when it comes to my career. She's given me all the motivation I need when it comes to my life. And she's actually added purpose to my life because I have a reason to get up every day. I have a reason to go to work every day. I have a reason to deal with whatever challenges life throws at me, because now I have somebody that looks like me with braids, right? To help raise, right? So when you talk about purpose, I mean, it's a loaded question, JDub. But at the end of the day, you know, God's favor is on every parent, regardless of your situation, because he could have chose somebody else to give that blessing to.
Right. Oh God, that was a lot of nuggets there, Matt. I can definitely piggyback on that. That was definitely a lot of nuggets. As it relates to purpose for me, when I look at my children, I see strength, I see endurance, I see surrenderance. I see the ability to become anything that I choose to at any age, at any point in life. It doesn't, I've realized that some of the goals that I had prior to having children, and even when I had them, I still pushed hard. There's some stuff that I still want to accomplish. You know, I'm successful in what it is that I do. I absolutely, hair is passion for me, the arts, the creative side, all of those different things, writing, all of those things are great for me, but there's still some other goals that I want to complete. And so some of those things I tried to do, say when Kennedy was smaller and then Silas was smaller, but then I realized I was stretching myself so thin trying to complete those things that it wasn't as it wasn't as a necessity. It was more so as a want. So what I realized is in raising these babies, everything that I still want to do, I can still do when they're done with when I've gotten them to where they need to be. And I'm okay with that. So when I look at that and I say about God's grace and mercies, there's a lot of things that we've gone through. And Matt spoke about, you know, divorce and different things like that. That alone is a personal thought as it relates to, did I fail my children because I put them in one situation and now there's another situation that you have to create a new balance for while co-parenting. So you're trying to create this balance for them to go from the tears to it's okay to a routine to something else totally different that continues to expand. So that's where it does take two parents that are co-parenting to put down some of their personal things in order, again, to prioritize the importance of their existence. Because again, like Matt said, we didn't have to be chosen. We didn't have to be chosen as parents. So after becoming a parent, not only to one, but to three, that is a blessing within itself. And if you don't be obedient to his word and how you're going about handling that, that can easily be taken away in various ways. And I'm not speaking on like anything morbid or anything like that. But there are things you got to understand as we grow as adults, as parents, as co-parents. Those children are growing. So what they learn and what they experience become their own. And so if their experience over here is like this, and their experience over here is like that, and they are able to differentiate this parent and this parent, they are creating their own balance of what it is that they want. So if you lose that, if you lose that relationship, if you lose that desire to be around you, it should give you an opportunity to be a self-reflective situation to where you understand I have to make some changes. It is no longer about this or about that. It's about this one little individual that God gave me, that it took two individuals to make. So again, like Matt said, regardless of what you feel over here and what they feel over there, if you don't grab a hold of yourself, you'll mess around and be sitting up looking crazy while this child has grown and made their decisions based upon their experiences. That's how we came about. So if you think of it that way, childhood traumas is what create adults with problems. And if they don't take those problems to another level, such as therapy or something along those lines, they pass that right on down because they're still fighting something that I can't help, you can't help, you need to go get help. And as they say, prayer, I'm going to say this and be done with that. Prayer is a weapon. Therapy is strategy. Think about it. Prayer is a weapon. We pray. And what do we say? No weapon formed against me shall prosper, correct? So we say that. What is therapy? Therapy is strategic ways in order for you to deal with, come to terms with, figure out, find a way, resolve. So if you take those two things and say, we're quick to pray about something or someone who is ill, and we say, oh, I'm gonna pray for you. But if somebody say, Lord, I'm feeling depressed, girl, go walk outside. You'll be okay. You're gonna be fine. Just take you a walk. You get it? Because prayer is a weapon and therapy is strategy. And I don't think anything is wrong with that. I think it's healthy.
Ladies and gentlemen, we have experienced a wonderful, deep discussion. And if you guys missed it, I will charge you to go on my Facebook page and take a look at this. This was some great information from this, what I deem, and I knew they was going to show out. So I appreciate you, Matt, and I appreciate you, Keisha. I know there's challenges when you're co-parent, but what you all said is finding that commonality, and that is finding that balance. What is that balance for both parents? I like how Matt says there's no single parent, is co-parent. We
Right.
If that person is still on this earth, nothing is irreparable. We can bring people together to do this for the love of our kids. We could not live together. So what? That's just the way it is. But guess what? I love in the Bible when it said God knew the end and then he began. So that child being here on earth is a success story. That person is deemed to be success. We all supposed to be success. So we learned a lot about today. I like when Keisha talked about separate your personal, mindset to the priority of kids and listening to the kids so they can be heard, being that kid here and being purposeful is both of what you guys said. The purpose for you is being purposeful for the kids,
Absolutely.
and making sure that I provide a foundation for these kids to live their life. We're from the SIP. I can tell you how I live my life, and you guys could probably share how you live your life. But now that we learn and we gain that knowledge and wisdom, now it's time for us to inoculate that or put that in our kids and place that seed to say, guess what? Don't give up. Guess what?
Right.
What you're supposed to do. And at the end of the day, I am trying to create a community of people are like-minded, of wanting to obtain their gift so God can say,
Job
job
well
well
done.
my
Yes.
You're supposed to be doing what what you're supposed to be doing. So once again, hands clap. Thank you all for just
Yeah, thank you.
blessing us with your
Appreciate you,
kind
man.
words and your nuggets and pearls. I'm looking here to my right, and they love you all, man. So hats off. I'm seeing a lot of people saying y'all showed out tonight, and I
Oh,
thank you.
good.
Thank you, Keisha. I love you all to the the bottom of my heart. And JDub, we got some more episodes. Stay tuned. Once again, thank you, Keisha. Thank you, Matt, for
You're
showing us
welcome.
what
Appreciate it, brother.
parent is all about, discovering kids' gift and self-discovering while raising kids. That's it for JDub's Corner. Thank you all for tuning in and look forward to the next episode coming soon. Love you all.
Peace.